Mayor, it's 6:30. I have a few preliminary matters if you're ready to start.
Yes, please. Go ahead.
Thank you. This is Zoe Burgess, your city clerk. This meeting is being held with a quorum of City of Westlake Council physically in attendance at the Westlake Council Chambers Community Center at 4005 Seminole Pratt Whitney Road. Mayor Roger Manning, Vice Mayor Katrina Long Robinson, Councilman Patrick Paul, Councilwoman Kara Crump, Councilman John Paul O'Connor are present physically. City Attorney Pam Booker and City Manager Kenneth Castle are physically in attendance. City Clerk Zoe Burgess is attending via communications media technology. Public comments may be accepted at least 24 hours prior to the meeting utilizing the electronic comment card available on the city's website. Public comments are also permitted at the appropriate times during the meeting. The mayor will call for such during public comment, and you may participate at this time utilizing the system's virtual hand feature and waiting to be acknowledged if you wish to comment. Please note this meeting is being recorded, both voice and video, and to remember your mic may be live. I will mute any microphones that carry any feedback or interruptions. However, you can unmute yourself. Any person in the virtual meeting causing a disruption or being inappropriate will be removed from the meeting. I may also remind those physically in attendance, please utilize microphones so that the virtual audience and a clear recording of the meeting is produced. Thank you. Mayor Manning.
Yes, good evening. I'd like to call to order the Westlake City Council special meeting, Monday, November 2nd, 2020 at 6:31 p.m. There's a roll call, please.
Yes, Mayor. Councilman O'Connor.
Present.
Councilwoman Crump.
Present.
Councilman Paul.
Present.
Vice Mayor Long Robinson.
Present. Present.
Mayor Manning.
Present.
We have a quorum, Mayor.
Thank you. We have the standing pledge, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, at this point we'll have public comment. This section of the agenda allows for comment from the public to speak on any item not presented on the agenda. Each speaker will be given a total of 3 minutes to comment. A public comment card should be completed and returned to the city clerk. When you are called to speak, please state your name and address for the record. City clerk, do we have any comments?
Mayor, I received no previous comments. However, we'll give a moment for the virtual audience to raise their virtual hand. If there is anyone who wishes to speak, please state your name and your address. If you wish to make a public comment, please unmute your device, state your name and your address. Mayor, I see no comments.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so let's get started. We're here for a review of the charter officers and the council direction. Item A, by administration, says.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, in my memo to the council, again, the focus of this meeting and review is to collectively provide from you as the council to the two charter officers a statement of where we are and where you want us to be going forward. And that's where we are tonight. That's basically what we're looking for.
Okay. So I know that I spent a lot of time with both the city manager and the city attorney over the last week, going over the reviews. And I know that city clerks put together the our comments. I know that I have at least one additional comment or question, and I'm sure that maybe the rest of the council has also. So I think at this point, let's open up the floor to any further discussion on the review and any other comments you may have or questions to the city attorney. We'll start with.
I can just make a very quick general comment.
Please.
You know, I've been in business a very long time. I've conducted a lot of employee reviews. And just one thing I'll get out real quick is it takes an actual miracle to get an outstanding from me.
Yes.
I don't give outstandings, and you know, it's a firm belief that there's always room for some type of improvement. So don't take that personally, guys.
Yeah.
I don't hand out outstandings. That's all.
Yeah. I don't either. I found the process extremely difficult to evaluate a position that I don't know a lot about. It's very difficult in the sense that I know what my responsibilities are, and I know what in my business and what I know what my employees' responsibilities are, because I'm there every day and I see what's going on, and I'm up on what's going on. In this case, it took a lot of time and a lot of effort to go through and spend the time. I spent 3.5 hours with Ken, and I spent 3 hours, I believe, with the city attorney, and I still walked away not feeling that I did an evaluation that was adequate or the best evaluation I could do. It was just done out of it was done, and I did what I felt. So I'm going to open up the floor now to anyone that'd like to make any further comments.
I've never done an evaluation before either, ever. So in reading, I looked at this very diligently.
Yeah.
I mean, fair meets most expectations. That doesn't mean, horrible, but I just did the best I can based on all the meetings, just kind of sitting back and watching and hearing and reading emails, and just gave the best opinion I could. So hopefully we can come together here and work some of the issues out.
I'll go. I have a couple of comments to make. So overall, first of all, thank you for us doing a review. I think it was long overdue because this is the 4th year. And so normally not on a job would you have been able to go this long without having a review. So I do appreciate that. To the manager moving forward, I would like for us, or like for Westlake, to implement a review prior to the budget. That is important. That moving forward.
That is the intent, that as we start into budget season,
Perfect.
we will go back and we'll spend with my intent now is to do more of a visioning with the council, so we can set all the parameters so that we make sure that we're covered in the budget, as well as being able to set the parameters for where you want the staff, the administrative staff, as well as the charter officers to be in the coming year. Then we have, at least this year, we have a start with a baseline, and we can continue to improve.
Sure. Yeah, I think that would be important, especially as we look to approve budgets and approve departments. Performance needs to be considered with a lot of that. I too agree with doing evaluations often. It's hard to get a 5 from me, because if you get a 5, then you have absolutely no room for growth. And so those 5, six.
Five's tough.
Yeah,
too.
you have absolutely no room for growth, and I haven't met or seen anyone who hits that mark every single time. One thing that I was disappointed in from both departments or staff, I could not identify any achievement, and that is bad. I know we have them. However, I don't think they were communicated enough to council to say exactly what those achievements were. We know things that have ordinances or projects that have gone forth. However, I cannot answer how many houses have been sold to date. There were some things that I could not answer myself that for us to meet as much as we have, that I think that we could have databases ongoing to discuss and talk about that. One thing that I am happy to see that everyone has been consistent on is the development of staff as in regards to relationship-wise. I would like to encourage staff to really look into, Dr. Jerry Muyo has a consulting firm now where she has a leadership workshop that staff really looks into, and I'm not saying you have to use her, but we need to, staff needs to go through some type of training to build a culture among staff. As I look at it, it's consistent with saying better relationship between attorney and manager, better communication between attorney and manager, because I think that unless we do that, we won't get far with the city. So I would like, those are my recommendations. And like I said, I'm glad we're here tonight with the implementation of an actual evaluation, and so that we can all even see what objectives and what we would like to be seen within the city. Like, I like your comments. You have good comments of what has been implemented. Everyone has good comments. And so I think even to talk to us about what are our objectives moving forward, what are our 2021 objectives that we would like to see for the city, I think that that would be profound and good. And then even when we have our state of the city, we can see were those objectives actually met between departments. And I do know I was, I put on there the implementation of the city hall. I think we had a missed opportunity for our original members to not be able to be a part of that. And so this council needs to be able to say that we actually were able, before 22 men, before that this group right here, we were able to get an actual city hall, something that we can be proud of. So those are my comments, and I think we all agree better communication. I shouldn't have to talk to developers to see where we are with development, and it's i.e. the school, price fellowship, things of that nature. So I think we need to really be innovative. I do like the fact that in talking about you and Councilman O'Connor talked about technology, right? We should be to a place, we should be to a place where we can do QR codes and it leads people where they need to be, and we're going to say we're innovative. And so if we're innovative, then we need to move it so that we are. And those are my comments. I will share, Zoe, I will turn in this leadership workshop proposal. Ken, if you could maybe look into some other training or leadership where the staff can go through that together, that would be good. And, I can email tomorrow with a date that you can kind of report back to council so we can put those in place. And that was our comments.
Thank you. Thank you for those comments.
Well, I have a question. Who's that gentleman?
I'm Bob Contar with Infomark. I'm the general manager for Infomark. I just wanted to come in and sit in tonight.
Okay, and then as far as
Ken's boss.
Yeah.
If I rate somebody outstanding in communication or with me, then but it's just that. communication between me and the city attorney has been just that outstanding. So personally, I'd be more interested to hear why somebody rates the attorney different than ask them why I rate outstanding. I'll give you the answer to that. I've not had any unpleasant moments with the city attorney. I think I cannot rate her job knowledge. I'm not an attorney. I know nothing about litigation. From what I know, what I hear, what I see every day, or when I deal with the attorney, to me, it's just that outstanding. Because I just don't know different. I'm not a lawyer. So, and unless somebody prove me different or can give me a different answer on that, it has to be that.
I don't think we're here to defend our answers.
No, I'm not defending. I'm giving the explanation why I'm not so much interested in defending. I would have been interested in hearing why somebody, for example, rate a poor. And I know there's a lot of communication with the city manager going on and those kind of things. There's a comment saying the city attorney is in the center of controversy. I think that's where she belongs. She's the city attorney. So that is a comment that, well, I would make like that, but anyway, that's all I got to say about that.
My turn, Tom?
Yeah, go ahead.
You're for it. So how are we actually doing this? Are we on city attorney right now? Are we?
Well, I don't know that we need to go point by
back and
point.
forth. I don't really understand what the process is.
What I'm looking for as the city manager, and I believe the attorney's looking for, is a collective direction and input on the various areas and topics. In other words, if on communication, everybody says, yeah, we're doing good, but you need to improve this and this, I think that's what we're looking for overall. Or if we're in a section that's got an issue or a problem, we're looking for, hey, you've got a problem here, you need to figure it out, see what you got to do. I think that's what we're looking for independently for each position.
Okay.
And then both of us have the ability then to make the necessary adjustments within our areas that we have control over.
So in
Right, Pam, I'm excited. I don't want to start to talk for you, but I think that's where we're both coming from.
in reading through the reviews, my own and everyone else's, there's one overwhelming theme throughout them all, and that's the relationship between these two people.
Yes.
I think we all can agree that something's got to give there. Something. I mean, whether it's a leadership boot camp that these guys got to go to and work it out and come back, I think we need to definitely do something about that infighting between departments. We got to get along. Something's got to give, because it is absolutely hurting the prosperity of this city, and it trickles down without a doubt. So I don't know what the answer is. I don't know what the magic bullet is, but we have to do something. Something has to happen.
And there's been a couple meetings where one or the other has been blindsided, one party or another has been blindsided by what's being said and presented at the meeting, making it very uncomfortable. I just think a lot of those things can be resolved before we get here.
Well, you're right, it's evident, and I'll say that during my meetings with both the city attorney and the city manager, I conveyed that message that there needs to be some method of getting to a point where there's not a friction going on. I know, I understand, and I after talking with the city attorney, she's here to work for us. This is for the city, and as you were saying, Paul, I believe that, and And I believe that the city manager also is working to try to do his job. But there's some instances where I have some reservation. But I want both the city manager and the city attorney to understand my viewpoint, and that is nothing can get done unless it's done collectively, easily. Let's put it that way. It can still be done, but it's not done easily. So I made a suggestion at one point to get together and try to work things out, and just related an old story of one of my former employers who I worked with for many years before I bought the business from him. And I had a head-butting incident with one of the employees after I came on board because I was the newbie, and I got angry after a while and told him that, you know what, one of us is going. It's probably going to be me because we're both in the same room for the next few hours. It's probably not going to end up well. So he said to me, and this is basically what it's telling what you've already said about getting a coach together. His suggestion to me is to go have lunch with her. And I said, you got to be kidding. And he said, no, I'm not kidding. I want you to go have lunch together and do me a favor, ask what the problem is and solve it between the two of you. It's interesting that we worked together for 8 more years after that, and it wasn't a simple or easy conversation, but it was still a conversation, which finally realized that we had something in common, and that was to get the job done, and that was get it done together. So you hit the nail on the head. That's the elephant in the room, and I would expect that the rest of the council will agree with me that it may take more than lunch or one conversation, but there's still got to be a step made here, and soon, I believe. There's a lot of conflict right now, and some of it is I find. I've said it to Ken, and I've also said it to Pam. I find the sunshine laws a real problem for me, because I would like to call you and say, you know what's going on with this? What are your feelings are? And the only way we can do that is when we're sitting right here. And you know what? I'm sure there's the good that goes along with that, but I can also see where you stumble and you can't run because you can't talk. So the question is, how do we get to where we need to go? And I think that I'm going to make the same suggestion my old boss said to me, and that was, I'd like the two of you to sit down and talk about the issues and see if there's any resolution to these issues that are coming up, and I think we'd like a report back as to what can be done, what can be done about this, and if it can't be done, why? What is the issue? Because we can talk about that here in public. What is the issue, and how can it be resolved in the public?
But to name the issue,
Yes.
It's a problem. The issue is not Mr. Castro. The issue is not Ms. Booker. The issue are outside influences, and there are three letters for those influences. And it starts with an S and it ends with a D. So, and that's an influence that, we got to talk about French, we got to talk about this, we got to talk about that. That is what brings up this friction. It's not one person or the other. I'm sure they're perfectly fine having lunch together.
Yeah.
But
The thing about it is, Sid's been there since day one.
And it's been a
So,
problem.
and the problem started about a year ago, maybe 7 months to a year ago, it's become toxic. I mean, that's my opinion.
And I would like to say, I understand what you're saying, Councilman O'Connor, but these are I'm sorry, not you, Councilman Paul. And we kind of agree to disagree on this, because I think there is a problem between both departments. I do. And I agree with Mayor Manning. It may start off with a one-on-one conversation, but I think it's bigger than a conversation at this point. I think we need to pay, the city needs to pay someone to come in and do some type of leadership training to build culture among staff. I think that happens pretty much on every job, where you have people come in and you build culture among staff, because at the end of the day, there will always be developers, there will always be outside influences. However, if there is not solidarity among staff, the problem is, as Mayor Manning said, then we as the council have to make a decision. Someone would have to go. I think at this point, us coming together, I will say, because I've been here since 2016, I take full responsibility. It shouldn't have taken this long to do an evaluation, because we wouldn't really have this conversation had we already done evaluations, because we would have been able to put things in place. So my grace is I am making the recommendation that they do have a conversation, that the manager does seek out someone and he reports back to us. We talk about it. If we want to do it, we do it. If not, then there are conversations or there are decisions that we as a council have to make, because true to what Councilman O'Connor said, the progression of the city will not be able to go on as it needs to do. And we will always run into roadblocks with trying to get things done and the progression of getting things done. So I wholeheartedly understand what you're saying. However, we, the council, have the responsibility of making the decision. And so, like I say, that's just my recommendation. I see what is documented, what we have all documented. There is a problem among departments as it relates to effective communication. We're not saying it's right or wrong. I'm saying I will take the blame that evaluations were not put in place prior to 2020, from 2016. And that is why I will take that. I'm woman enough to take it.
I'm taking it with you.
Yeah, I'm woman enough to take it. And we wouldn't have been here. We've allowed that. And so now this is my suggestion of trying to remedy, because I think Attorney Booker is dynamic.
Yes.
I think Ken Castle is dynamic, and I've had a conversation with Ken way more because he's the manager. And I've been very honest with him on timeliness, on leadership, on things of that nature, on implementation of things. And so I've had conversation with Attorney Booker. And so now my suggestion, like I said, is we try to work with them to figure out how we can move forward. But then I can only speak for me, then I know better and would have to make a decision of what's best for the constituents in Westlake. Because at the end of the day, that's what it's about.
So I'm not one to air dirty laundry, and I don't want an argument.
Sure.
But I'd like to hear from our charter employees specifically. What do you guys think is this core issue, and what are you guys going to do to get past it? I mean, they're here. Let's talk. This is the only time we get to talk. So.
I'll go ahead and start,
Ken. First?
I don't want you guys to have the impression, or it appears from the evaluation, that you have the impression that Ken and I do not talk. That is absolutely not the case. Ken and I do talk. There are moments where Ken and I may not agree on everything. And there have been those moments, yes, in this last year. Some of that has been because, yes, he has his two hats. He has his opinion on some things. I have different opinions because of what I think is the law in over 26 years experience in local government to give a different perspective. My preference on how to deal with this going forward, an example of that was with the golf cart ordinance. It's really simple. Ken gave you the administrative position. He didn't want an annual renewal because of the administrative fees associated with that. I gave you my position on what would be the legal implications of not having that done on an annual basis. You guys came back and said, well, we're going to do every 3 years. To me, that's how it should happen. It's not that I have an issue with Ken, or Ken has an issue with me. We have different opinions. And those opinions should be brought to this body for you to make a decision. You can get the legal perspective. You can take it or you don't have to. You can do whatever you want with it. But I feel like I have an obligation to tell you what I understand the law to be. And Ken has an obligation to tell you what he thinks is best from a management perspective. But you guys are the policymakers, and you get to make those policies. And we're on both ends of this dais because you get two different perspectives. His perspective as a manager is completely different than mine as a lawyer. My perspective as a lawyer is completely different from Ken's. So you take all of that, and you're the decision makers, and you make those decisions. I would like for it not to be perceived that just because we have a different opinion, there's always a problem. There isn't. And some of the issues on development, the question has been asked several times at several different meetings. Well, how do you get along? Prior to this year, it was the 80-20. John Carter came up with the 80-20 rule in Manitoba, something we were going to try to do to get the development adopted. Most of the time we agreed. On these last couple of ordinances that we are trying to adopt, we absolutely do not agree. Again, you have multiple legal opinions that have been provided to you guys, different presentations. My opinion doesn't change. Bob's opinion doesn't change. The outside counsel was to provide a third independent opinion to say, hey, who's right, who's wrong, where do we go? You will have all the information on those issues, but ultimately, it's for this body, you, to make a decision what direction you go in, what direction you move forward. It shouldn't be Ken and I still arguing about that. It's you have every perspective, you make that decision. So that's how I think we should move forward. I have absolutely no objection to any of the leadership team meetings or any of those things that are out there. I've done that before. I have no objection. Ken and I can do that. But I just didn't want to leave you guys with the impression that we do not talk. We do. We may not always disagree with each other. But again, I don't think that's the worst thing in the world because we don't always agree. Now let Ken add, to that.
We do communicate, not as much on some things as would probably be good. I do take some deference to the comment that, my position as a city manager may be swayed by the hat I wear with Sid. It's not. Because I would be making the same decisions for the city if I had nothing to do with Sid. Because I've made these kind of decisions many times in my past career of over 40 years doing this. That there are things that other entities should do that I shouldn't duplicate, regardless of if it's I can or says I shall. It says I shall get it done. Doesn't mean I have to do it as the city. I have to make sure it gets accomplished. I'm taking that same tact with Sid. I'm a layman. I read the charter, I read the interlocal agreement. It says the city shall not do this. Sid's responsible for that. I look at that and say, you know what? That's where the division needs to be. It needs to be set that way. There's a difference of opinion of that. Because his attorney says, well, that's the legal responsibility. The city has to do it. I look at it and going by my 40 years of experience, look at how many times during that I've gone with, probably worked with 25 or 30 different attorneys in the 40 years. Every one of them has said, tell me what you want to do, I'll tell you if you can legally get there or not. It's not always that you can't get there. It's always a solution oriented. I'm about solving problems and solutions is what we need to do as a city. Because if we can't solve the problems and the issues, or the developers or the interaction between the city and the city, we will get a reputation of being difficult to work with. And when that gets out there in the market, you can kiss the development goodbye here for at least 5 to 10 years. It will happen. I've seen it before. I've been in cities where it occurred before because people said, no, I'm not coming to this city because it is a quagmire and a mess. The prime reason that the tax collector is here. They got tired of dealing with Palm Beach Gardens for over 2 years. They said, the heck with it. We're going down there. And then we end up with some stuff that's going to a quagmire, slowing them down. They didn't come here to be slowed down. They came here to get things done. We need, you talk about a city hall, you talk about something. Yes. One, right now we have no bonding capacity whatsoever. I've got no tax base to leverage for bonding capacity. So building a city hall between now and 2022, it's not going to happen. Wellington was over 10 years in the mall. They were 15 years in their other partial place where they are. Only until recently, the last 10 years or so, are they in their new city hall. Waxahachie Groves is over 10 years. The only reason they're in a city hall is because the chamber built it, couldn't swing it, sold it to them at a good price. I mean, there are some temporary things we can do as a city hall. We negotiate the land deal with the landowner, pick it up. There's temporary buildings that we can do. I don't know if any of you have been in Skyco's sales center or some of these other sales centers. They're modulars and stuff. That's an option that we can do. That's one of the things I've kicked around. I've got Neil's already looking at larger scale plans. We're already looking at site plans, which I will be bringing back to you probably in December as a report is where we are. But again, till we have one, a piece of land we either have to buy or negotiate with to get a piece of land. Two, we have some dollars that we can actually fund and afford to do something. We're stuck. We are stuck. Is there anything we can do beyond that? Get the development here, make sure everything flows faster. I mean, you know, we talk, there's just a difference of opinion on some of the roles and some of the things that the vision of what the city should be is really what it boils down to.
My understanding, I'm talking to both of you, I don't think it has really anything to do with the vision of the city from the city attorney's point of view. The city attorney's point of view is, from the way I understand it, is that what she does is support us, council, with legal advice based upon her knowledge of the law and what she feels we should be doing or should not be doing, and it's an opinion. She's not telling us what to do. She's giving us an opinion. And I don't know about you, but my attorney, I listen to wholeheartedly with my ears perked when I'm listening to that attorney, because usually it means if I may be doing something wrong or I need to change my direction. So I don't think it's a vision. I don't think that the city attorney, where she owns a home here also and lives here, I don't think she's looking to knock the city down. I think it's. I'm gonna agree with Councilman Paul. I think there's a conflict of interest here still. I think that it needs to be looked into, and I would like to see this go forward without being a big blow up. I'd like to see us work it out, and I understand development-wise. Hey, I know all about it. We had the conversation about the city of Lake Worth for years and years. They couldn't get developers to come in and do anything down there, or even anybody to pull a permit because it was such a hassle. Well, they've seen the light down there now. Guess what? You can get in and out of there pretty easily now. Do I think that we should change our rules or the way the development order is written and what we should be doing to accommodate somebody? Absolutely not. That's not what we're here for. We're here as a city, we have rules, and we're operating on our development order from the Palm Beach County right now with the developer. We should be following that to the T, because that's what the law is. And that's what was agreed to. So there's some issues, and I'd like to see us get them resolved.
But from my understanding, when the city was created in 2016, the interlocal agreement and everything between SID and the city, there isn't one without the other, right? We work together.
Right. Exactly what we should.
So I believe that Ken has the best interest for both SID and the city. I think he's doing a great job. I don't necessarily think at this point, from my conversations with him, that there's any kind of conflict of interest. That's my opinion.
So what we've continued to hear, basically from everybody, is the core of this issue is stemming from a difference of opinion here and a difference of opinion over there. And in the same token, we've been told that they're simply opinions, because the fact of the matter is the will of the council is what rules. Whether they can have their opinions, but what we say goes. So that being said, I'd like to see if we can hash some of this stuff out right now. You know, let's give the direction that needs to be given, and their opinions be damned. You know, we tell you what happens. So if we can count to 3, then that's the way that we need to conduct ourselves moving forward.
I just like more clarity.
We're just going to get stuff done.
Sit in the city contract because
No, this is evaluation, review, whatever, you give direction, you take whatever, do whatever you
I mean, I'm not
believe
talking
is
about
appropriate at the time.
an ordinance or a resolution, but it's our guidance. We can give guidance.
Correct.
Correct? And how to conduct yourself moving forward. And we can give guidance on how to conduct yourself moving forward. And you said that's really all you're looking for.
Correct. Both of us.
So I think we should do it. Let's get it done.
I'll tell you
And
one.
collectively, both of us work for all 5 of you. That's one of the reasons that several times I've spoken to different ones of you that have said, if somebody says something on the dais and you're not 100% for it, you don't have to say, oh, that's terrible. All you have to do is go, well, all you have to do is raise something. But if the other 4 of you sit silent, that is a clear message to the attorney and myself that whatever that one person is saying is the direction we're going to take the organization. But if we get, well, maybe we ought to talk about it, maybe we need to look at it, anything like that, not that it creates a big argument amongst you, but just any kind of not sure. And I've got one person that's saying one thing, and I got 2 or 3 others that are going, not quite sure, we need to talk about it more. That gives clear direction to the attorney and myself to say, hey, understand where one's going, the others aren't quite there yet. What is it? What are the ramifications if we go down that road? And we can bring back recommendations. But if there's silence, you may get all kinds of stuff that you may or may not collectively want. And I think what we're looking for tonight is collectively, and I think Councilman O'Connor's right on, collectively, whether it's point by point or whatever, I'm looking for y'all to say, in communication. I know in speaking with Vice Mayor Long Robinson, you want me to talk to you at least once a month or more. Call you and set a time and go over things. I know Roger likes me to call him about 7:30 in the morning on his way to work. JP's about 7:45 to 8 o'clock. I know Patrick is later in the afternoon when he's off of work. And I got to catch Kara usually on a Friday when she doesn't have work. So I know when the times are, and some of you are saying, I call and I say, do you have any questions, et cetera? And you say, no, I'm good. All right. See you in a week or so. But at the same time, the offer and everything that I put out to you all is, got any questions? Want to discuss it? Give me a call. because I will not push you to any predetermined conclusion or thought process that I may have. I put out information for you all to read, for you all to look at, for you all to come up with questions and say, hey, I don't understand this, or I'm thinking about this way. Is that correct or not correct? Because that is the only way, from my perspective, is the proper professional way to manage this organization and work with the council. Because if I do anything other than that, then I can potentially maneuver you into a predetermined outcome that I want, and I will never go there.
I say we make their jobs easier. You know, let's give them the guidance. We're in these leadership roles. Let's lead. You know, make their jobs easier. Redefine job descriptions or just, you know, guidance. And perhaps some personal opinions will get put aside. And then it really just makes their jobs easier moving forward. And if that's what this review process is about, let's get it done.
I'm not so sure how to handle that. Maybe somebody's wiser than I am about how to make that happen.
You guys got some core differences of opinion you want to talk about, and we can see how everybody feels about them, and then maybe that'll make everyone's job, well, your guys' job much easier.
I mean, does everybody trust one another? Has that been
That's a
lost
big
over
one.
the last year? I mean, we're all working on the same team with the same goal here. I mean, we should all trust each other and trust that we're all doing our jobs. And
You guys need direction from us. Let's give it to you. What's holding things up? Let's lead. Anything we can issue some guidance on either side of the table? Because I think we're all ready.
Then again, I stand by what I said earlier. It's not that there's a general difference in policy or understanding thereof or how the city should be run. City attorney is on the legal side, and as far as King Castle, I'm sure I told him that myself. I think of him as very capable in what he's doing, without a doubt. So I'm very sure he's well aware of legal issues or of the various issues that it takes to run the city. I'm very sure he's very capable in that regard. Again, it's the outside influences where we're different. And while everybody said, well, I disagree with this, if you wind back the tape, there was a whole lot of time talking about it. So you did it, you know, so is that the problem? I do not believe that the city manager and the city lawyer have a large disagreement on how to run the city. I absolutely do not believe that. The controversy comes in when we're talking about now the drainage, before it was the bond, which goes back 2 years, because I know sitting here on the other side in the council chamber, I was listening to this whole thing going on for a while. And so this is not a new issue, it's just has intensified, in my opinion. And, you know, you and the vice mayor have sat on the bench and have been in this room doing those discussions. I was there as a resident, listening to all of this, and the problem has not changed, has not gone away, it just has intensified. That, I believe, is the core problem between the city manager and the attorney. That is why we're sitting here assuming there's no communication and bad blood, if you will, between them when there's not. It's just overcoming these issues that from a third party are being brought in.
But
Westlake.
I don't know, I feel like we've kind of seen the differences of opinion between the two at the last workshop meeting. I mean, there was definitely a disagreement
And the workshop was about what?
between
Yeah.
the city manager and the attorney.
Yeah, but the workshop was about what? City. It wasn't about a city issue, per se.
No,
It wasn't about an internal
It-
issue, it was about.
It is a city issue. It's
Well,
whether the city can or cannot rely on another entity's approval for something that they're responsible for. From my perspective as a city manager, that is a root issue that we were trying to address. It's a difference of opinion as to whether they can or can't.
So at that point,
But this is,
I was not left to listen to our legal advisor to bring that point across. You know, and that's what she's there for. That's what she's getting paid for. That's what her sole job is. So, and any one of you two tell me, is there any other issue of that magnitude, that any other problem between you, Mr. Castle, or you, Ms. Booker, that arises? If not, then we have to say this is a concern. That is where the problem comes in, and nothing else.
So can we all agree that that's a core issue? And if it's a core issue, let's settle it. Let's issue guidance right now. We'll figure out where everyone's opinion is, because like you said, we don't get to talk to each other than right now. Let's discuss that, issue the guidance we need to issue, and that's it. It becomes the rule. They're obviously at an impasse.
That I
They
don't.
rely on us for
not
guidance.
even,
That item is planned on getting
it's more, it's gone
into-
further than that. It's now down to the Seminole Improvement District's attorney, the attorney for Minto, the developer, and our council. Okay, so what you're saying and what we're leading up to is, are we gonna agree with the opinion of our attorney or Seminole Improvement District's attorney, which is also the same firm as Minto?
Exactly,
Okay.
that's the question.
But shouldn't we just be following the interlocal agreement? Is that what
Well,
we're?
that's
isn't that
what's
what we're-
in question. The
What's in
question is, how to determine that and what the responsibilities are of our city and our city engineer.
But from my understanding, that they all sat down together in 2016 and wrote that interlocal agreement and were on the same page, so now why are we not, is
I'll
my
let
question.
the city attorney explain that.
Legal question, without it
Yep.
being on the agenda, is that something we can talk about right now? Can we finally put this to bed?
It hasn't been noticed for the agenda. My suggestion would be no, because
Okay.
we have said at the last meeting, let me answer you to why first, that's the short answer, is we said this was gonna come back to the council on the 9th. You're gonna have the engineers present to do their presentation. You will have, I'm sure, Bob Diffenderfer from Lewis, Long, Walker, as well as Tara, who will want to do their presentation. They will make the point, as Tara did at our last meeting, you did not give them notice to bring resolution to this. They were not present to advocate their position. So that would not be fair to them to make those decisions without having the benefit of their commentary again. You have it in writing, but they're not here
Fair
to be
enough.
heard.
Yep.
Are there any other differences of opinion that we can make everybody's life easier on moving forward?
We got the Article 5.
It's all wrapped in the same thing. We've been stuck on this city authority, from the bond to now the drainage to what's gonna be in the code. That should all be to you next week, Monday, to hash this out and just to answer Councilwoman Crump's position. It's not just the interlocal agreement that governs what occurs here in the city. That was part of that PowerPoint presentation to lay out the other parts and pieces. We are also obligated, and we are under the county's ULDC. That code is in place, and that was part of the issue, is that wasn't being followed. And there's a litany of things in there we're supposed to follow as well as the disagreement. So we're gonna have this full conversation on that. As I stated the last time, I would love for you guys to finally give Bob, myself, Ken, direction on what you wanna do with chapter 5. We'll be able to talk about the letters that came in, the letters with Sid asking for the dispute resolution process under the interlocal agreement. All those things will be fully prepared to engage in that discussion next week, Monday evening.
Forgive me for being ambitious, and definitely a bit overzealous, but I'm just trying to get things done.
Yeah.
I want to see some movement forward. I mean, can we put this conflict to bed? Do we all think it's a conflict that Ken is wearing both hats? I'll go on record and say I don't think it's a conflict. I really don't. I think it's easier for him to ask himself something regarding the SID role than it is for him to have to call and wait a week to get an answer on something. He can say, self, this, and then answer himself immediately. Personally, that's my opinion. I don't see it as a conflict. I just want to get some movement forward, get some closure on some of these issues, and maybe that'll help you guys work together better, because there's obviously a conflict. It's got to get resolved so that the city can keep moving forward.
I'll go back. Councilman Pauls. He doesn't believe that that's the
Right.
issue. That's the issue. It's not a conflict between the two of them. It's a contrast and difference of opinion of what the position should be. You'll have your presentation prepared also, I assume, for
Yeah.
next week.
You'll get to go through it all over again. You'll
Yep.
get the longer version in the letter form if you
Will
like.
we reach an
You'll get
answer?
the Presentation. I
Well,
have my
will we
answer
come
that
to a
has not
conclusion?
changed from my legal opinion. It has not changed.
So we'll do the
That will not
motion
change.
for the next, work on the 9th.
Yeah.
On that specific
On the
issue.
ninth,
Is
on the
there
ninth,
anything else we can get
we-
done today?
Well,
I think,
Okay.
are we going to talk about any of the other points we've talked about
Yeah.
so far all night between the
I think we moved.
communication between city manager and the city attorney?
Right.
There were, if I'm not mistaken, 7 other points that we rated and graded the.
I think everything,
Yeah,
I don't think anybody else.
I don't know if there's anything else we need to talk about or want to
Well,
talk
Yeah,
about.
we want to go one by one and talk about this?
well, I guess my question is this like a regular evaluation where you give goal setting and direction? Staff, do we give you goal setting and
Yes.
direction of what we want? Like we set so many goals and then give direction?
You can do it that way, or you can say, look, collectively, we want to see X by such and such a
Correct.
date, Y by such and such a date.
Okay,
That is what really is kind of what we're looking for
Right.
overall,
okay.
because then that gives me something to measure, are we getting there or not? It gives you all something to hold our feet to the fire as well.
So how do we do that? Do we each say what we want and then see if any of the items overlap, like we did for the youth advisory board, and make that a goal, a firm goal? Like how are we actually doing this?
That's exactly how I felt when we sat down here. And all the drive out here, I'm thinking, how are we gonna conduct this?
I mean, this was great because I got to see where everybody else's head is at.
Right.
Because I don't get to do that. But what's the point if it doesn't get us anywhere? You know?
I think as you go through it, if you look at it and put it into a matrix, the majority of the items were either good or very good on the manager. A good number of them were good or very good on the attorney. I think in order for me to have a better concept of what I need to change or improve, and I believe Pam would agree with me, is I'm looking for the things that are saying, one of you or more said, that's fair, or what, on those kind of areas, and say, from your perspective, what specifically are you looking for? Now, I did have a conversation with Katrina after the fact, and she pointed out that she wants to talk to her on certain points, on certain times. So I'm setting up a date, so I talk to her on a consistent basis. There's some other things that I'm working on that you have mentioned already. Those are there. So those are the kinds of things that I need. I believe Pam would agree that those are the things that she's looking for, is what are the specific items that she wants to change. The communication is a very difficult one, because the differences are differences of where our experiences and our mind is for what is the proper role for the city manager, for the city attorney, what are our proper roles, what we should be involved in, what we shouldn't be involved in. I think that's really what we need to, from my perspective, we need to boil down and get some teeth into.
Well, so one of the points for me would have been for the city manager as it relates to the budget. Personally, I really was hoping for much more detailed or more detailed information when it comes to some of these budget items. Like electricity, a balloon figure of $43,000, I believe it was. I really want to see a breakdown there. Where is this money being paid? Where's this money being spent? So, those kind of things, we've had some questions that night, and whoever was on the phone struggled to get the answers. So when it comes to the money, when it comes to the budget, I really, personally, I would like to see in the budget items more detail. And
I took your comments to heart, and I will be. And as I explained, even last budget and the budget before, when we revamped what the budget was originally scheduled as, when you're starting out, everything just kind of goes into one bucket because you really can't parcel it out because you're moving so fast. But as we came up, was it last year? Not last year. The year before budget, we totally revamped the whole layout in 48 hours at the request of Councilman Vice Mayor Robinson, because it would display similar to what other cities are used to looking at. Because we're contract city, it's a little difficult to lay us out like another city, typically, because a lot of them are employees. But at the same time, we work very diligently to break down the departments. And I do understand more detail. In other words, how many lights are we paying for? What lights are we paying for? Trust me, I've got the accountants breaking that stuff out, chasing that stuff out, and that will be on the next budget. You will be able to see that kind of detail, what we're spending for copiers, what the breakdown of copiers, percentage of copiers, et cetera, is.
I'd like to see a breakdown of how we're paying Infomark more. We're paying for the city managers coming from Infomark, the city clerk is out of Infomark, which we've seen her salary and where it's budgeted for that. But the breakdown, for instance, I'm going to ask, you have other responsibilities other than the city of Westlake.
Correct.
I assume in your job. How many other responsibilities do you have other than Westlake?
I'm actually responsible for the entire Southeast region, which I believe has 9 or 10 different clients that we manage. I have several other district managers that handle some of them. I oversee about 6. They take some of my time, but my time primarily is here between the time that's required to do what I do for the city of Westlake and what I do for the Seminole Improvement District. It's probably 90% or 95% of my overall time. You are not paying for 100% of my time. You are paying for a pro rata share of my time. I put in hours way more.
Well, I know you do that.
Than what you, as the city, are paying for. That is how you leverage, and that's one of the beauties of leveraging an organization like Infomark to provide the services. You're not paying for a full accountant because they're not doing full time. You're not paying for a full-time payroll clerk. You're not paying for a full-time AP person or an AP manager, et cetera, et cetera. You're paying for the service, which is the way it's set up.
I realize that's how it works. I just like a breakdown of.
It's broken down by the departments. If you notice in the department, in the finance was broken out. That covers your accountant, AP, AR, managers of that section, et cetera. So it is broken out. And that's one of the things that was difficult when Vice Mayor Robinson asked for us to break it out, because it was, prior to that year, a lump sum, which was also hard to track, is even for us, is how much time are we putting in the various areas? Do I need to add additional personnel? What are my times? I monitor that on a monthly basis. I have a monthly call with Bob and both of our boss's boss and the finance officer to review. How many hours are we putting in? How many is going in on clerk's time, accountant's time, AP time, et cetera, to make sure that we're providing the right level of service for the dollars that we're being paid. And are we or are we not? Do we need to add staff? I believe Councilman Vice Mayor Robinson asked, what department? Looking at what we're doing, what's coming on, as I stated before. Next department is, I'm going to have to increase the clerk's position for other things that we need to be doing that I need a clerk or a deputy clerk to handle. And that will be the next growth phase that we'll be coming back to, because it is requiring, as we grow, additional time in that position. But I will be breaking it down to more of a detail so that you can see it.
I didn't put it in my review, but I did touch on it when we were speaking. One thing I would love to see is your reviews on your departments that you oversee. We can only review you, but you oversee a lot of departments, and same with Pam. I would love to, and it doesn't have to be anything as formal as this, but I would love to know, are we happy with the engineering department? Are we happy with planning and zoning? Are they meeting their deadlines? That's information that's twice removed from me. So it would be nice to just know, even if it was bi-yearly or quarterly, planning and zoning is really crushing it lately. They're exceeding every one of my expectations, or they're really not getting permits back on time. We need some adjustment there. I would love to see some kind of measurement of their performance.
Those departments all report directly to me, and I will provide that.
That's great.
So is it fair to say that that could be one of our goals, among departments, for manager as well as legal management and
legal doesn't have anything legal to deal with per se.
Right.
All the rest of the departments are direct reports to the city manager.
Sure.
But yes, we can set it up if you want them quarterly. We can set up quarterly status reports for you all.
So how would
we can make that a goal? Everybody agree with that?
That's great. That would be a
I'm game
goal.
with that.
Let me add a commentary to that, though. Ken is absolutely right. Those departments work under tenants. I can tell you, I think Melissa, Suzanne, Joe, I've had less interaction with Joe lately, but I think all those departments do a great job. Anytime there's questions or inquiries from anyone, they're on it immediately. Issues with applicants with getting permits, I mentioned to some of you who aren't aware of it. We meet every Monday morning. We have a staff call, and it's generally to go over all the applicants' applications and what the status of them and what's going to be on the next agenda and timing, and can we meet that deadline? And what's next? Where are they with the submittals or the resubmittals, or what's missing from these packets before they ever come to your agenda for a meeting? There's a lot of back and forth that occurs. There's a lot of scenarios we've tried to get better because it creates a lot of issues for Zoe. But if we don't get that information timely, does it make the agenda? Applicant department, engineering and planning have gotten things late, but we still managed to get it reviewed, turned around, they get their comments on there so it can still make an agenda as you guys collectively are inquiring about development and how does it move forward and whether we're stopping development. I can tell you from my perspective and dealing with other jurisdictions, even working previously, the turnaround here for the city is incredible. I've never seen that type of response and turnaround in any other jurisdiction for many different reasons, but that has been the goal, is can set forth when we were early on working with John to have a 14-day turnaround on applications and permits and to get feedback. And I know Ken has followed up on that. I believe they're all meeting those goals and turnaround on permits and applications. So for me personally, you've gotten my verbal evaluation here. I think they're doing great, but they work and report to Ken.
As an update to that, there have been a number of times where it's been a back and forth between either the engineer or Nielsen, the applicant. And I'll end up jumping in and make a phone call to both. Let's get them on the phone and say, look, enough. You need this, you need that, get it in. I'm done with it. I don't like, as you mentioned, I don't like to play games. I want to get it done, because if we get it done, we're moving forward and we need to make it happen.
In those kind of cases,
Mm-hmm.
that you have to step in between two engineers and make a determination, how are you able to do that?
It's not the two engineers necessarily. I'll give you a prime example.
Yeah, please.
We had an issue with some landscaping that was being proposed for Christ Fellowship. Mr. Herring, the applicant, was going round and round with the landscape architect about a tree, or it doesn't need to be here, and she was citing site distances, et cetera, et cetera. And they'd been going on for like 4 weeks, back and forth. Oh, we'll field move it, et cetera, et cetera. And I finally got a online call, meeting with everybody. And I just told Don, I said, Don, they don't field move these things. They don't field adjust them. They'll put them right where your drawing says. If it says there, they will stick it there, and then we got to go fight with them to move it. I'm not doing that. So between him and Tanya and Suzanne, myself on the phone, Don says, well, I can just move this tree back here, and I can put this tree over there. Are you good with that? And they said, yes, solved. 5-minute call. I didn't tell them what to do. I just made them find a solution that the applicant could live with and the engineer or landscape architect could live with. That is my function in those things. I push them to find me a solution that they can both live with, that fits the code, that meets the code, that they're willing to sign off and put their engineering degree or their license on the line for.
So when you run into a situation, have you run into situations where they don't agree and won't agree?
Not yet.
Well, I don't think that's necessarily true.
Well,
I think we got an instance right now where there was some disagreement.
No, they agree. In the last meeting, and the information that I put out to all of you, and I put an email from both of them, they agree that if Sid's engineer reviews it in with accordance with this criteria, city engineer can accept the certification. So they did agree.
So there's no issue anymore. I think there's still an issue though.
From
my perspective, there's not an issue. From the attorney's perspective, there's an issue.
Yeah, we're
Yeah,
gonna talk
we'll talk
about
about
it
it
Monday.
Okay. Excuse me. Keep me on track here.
Yeah, that's at the night.
So for Ken's position, I wrote a couple objectives that I would like to see get done, and I'll read them. If anybody disagrees with any of them, tell us. Otherwise, can we call them objectives? A couple of them are very, very important, and by living in the city, I know it's important to most of the residents. So there are a couple big ones. One is the fact, and these aren't necessarily things that Ken can accomplish, but he can try. So one is the fact that AT&T is the only internet service provider for the entire city. I must hear 5 times a week, why can't we have Xfinity? Why can't we have another provider? Why can't we have another provider? My understanding, they didn't want to come. There weren't enough rooftops. Xfinity didn't want to come here. What I have written here is I'd like to see an extraordinary effort from the city manager to bring an alternative internet and cable service provider, such as Xfinity or other, to the residents of Westlake. Right now, the only provider is AT&T. I'd love for you to hit the ground running on that, try to get it done.
Actually, I made a call last week, got a little bit of a runaround. I'm going to follow up this week with them again. I called Comcast corporate.
Okay. Could everyone agree that's important?
Yes.
All right.
I agree too. I wish there was 3 in here for the residents to have a competition.
That'd be awesome. And it's just going to drive prices down. Competition does that. Next is, and I don't know what you can do about this, but if there's something, please. We have a terrible issue with mail in our city. Our mail truck that services us is not an actual Jeep. It's a guy's personal truck. Mail is constantly wet. It's getting misdelivered. It goes to places and people that it doesn't, you know, on the residents' Facebook page, daily, it's, I got this thing delivered to me. When are you coming to get it? I got this delivered to me. And it's not just USPS. There's issues across the board. But I think maybe reaching out to the postmaster, if the city manager could reach out to the postmaster and say, hey, you know, we're going to have 4,500 homes. Why can't we get a normal mail truck? Or, you know, and I've heard from other mail people that our route is not like a desired route for whatever reason. But maybe lean on them a little bit and try to get some improvement in the mail service.
It's definitely a conversation I've had with Ken several times.
I mean, you know.
It's well, there's more involved. There's whatever UPS and FedEx and Amazon, and they're all delivering the stuff the wrong way. So I don't know what. Like I said, I've talked to Mr. Kessler several times about it, and
I've sent several correspondence to the local postmaster where the mail comes out of down in Waxahachie. Again, he stated the same thing. We're not the normal thing. You got a guy with a pickup truck and that's what it is, and he's supposed to keep it covered, et cetera, et cetera. And I'm saying, it's not working. The guy says, well, that's what he's got. I believe
Can we go
the next step is, yes, I will be going up from his boss or their regional guy is the next step to say, hey, we need some different attention on here.
So can we
those
just make that an
communications, can
objective?
we be copied in on that?
Yes, I will.
Let's make that an objective because it's something that's got to get fixed. Finally, this trash company has to get held accountable. It's embarrassing. Every week online, people are posting their Ring video camera footage of the trash people just throwing trash around, and it's bad. Or chucking bins across the way, and it's actually embarrassing. So, I mean, I don't know if those videos need to
Please have them send me the video.
forward it straight to you, and then you can forward it straight to the boss's boss.
Forward it
Because I know the boss gets them. Because a lot of the videos are from the actual truck that picks up the trash. Somebody has a relationship with the local manager, and he gets the video and sends it, and then he posts it.
I need that so I can hammer him.
And
Because
we
without
need some accountability there.
if it's out there and I don't know about it, and it's just a room that's out there, it's like I need to know about it so I can push the buttons that need to be pushed on the hauler.
I know you mentioned they have maybe 2 or 4 years left on their contract. That is definitely something that I think needs to be a priority and needs to get fixed.
It is on my agenda along with the attorney that once we have a sufficient number of rooftops, and that's the key, to have a sufficient number of rooftops before someone will bid. That was why we couldn't bid and had to go with the county's process in the first place. But as soon as we get close to that magic number, trust me, we're going out for bid because we can tailor the contract more so than what we have now to meet the needs that we have.
Either way, I think you should make a little separate email inbox called trash, because I'm about to flood your mail with all these videos.
Zoe, please set up a inbox for trash complaints.
We could do that.
I've got one more that's not on here that I didn't put on here, and it'll probably cost a fortune, so I don't think we're ready for it yet. But I would love to at least explore the idea of a municipal-wide Wi-Fi. I would love to see somehow how we can, I'm a technology guy. I know other cities and other municipalities have Wi-Fi for the entire city. I think that's something that the residents of Westlake could really, really benefit from. I don't think we're ready for it yet because we have no money, but I think it's something we need to at least get the ball moving, because maybe there's a way to offset the cost or, advertise. I don't know how it works, but if you could look into how some of these other cities are able to afford citywide Wi-Fi, I think we bill ourselves as an innovative, forward-thinking city. We should be on the cutting edge of this. Those are mine.
You're a technology guy. Isn't this 5G towers that they're putting in everywhere? I've seen, I don't know.
So there's a couple ways to do it. A tower would be one, but you need you definitely need so there's new technology called mesh. It's not just access points like it used to be where they just kind of broadcast and then rebroadcast. Now they've got this mesh technology where all these access points talk to each other. And that I know has dropped the cost of doing a large-scale Wi-Fi drastically. I mean, just doing it in a home has dropped an insane amount. So I know it can be done. It would probably be mesh, but something to the scale of a city, I wouldn't even know where to start. But I know other cities have it. So,
Yeah, City of Lake Worth does.
I think that'd be great. And if everybody agrees, I think citywide Wi-Fi would be awesome, and if there's a way to get it done, or at least think about getting it done, then
We'll investigate it, bring back the numbers.
that'd be cool. That's what I got. My big one for Ms. Booker was the relationship between these two. So aside from that, I think nothing illegal.
Are we going through with our goals or kind of mesh them with what Councilman O'Connor has? Do we do that? So I'll just add a couple for, because I'm assuming that the goals would be different for the different departments. One of my goals for Ken was working to meet deadlines in a timelier manner. I think sometimes we come back and forth a little too much. And I asked for him to, and I have a couple there in here that you can see, but I'll just go through a couple that I think maybe would be, necessary. I said continue to increase the general fund reserves so we can have the money. But I feel like I would like for him to get involved in community more here, locally, because like you just said, some of our other local municipalities have certain things. So I think if the networking increase, we can kind of figure out what some other local municipalities are doing, and make it better here in Westlake. And I think I'll just add on to, that's all I will add for Ken. I do feel like, the timeline would help. And then for legal, I also said work to build and maintain effective working relationships, with management. And I know, so some of the other things that I had would be for, Monday, where some of those other ones. So, that's it.
I spoke about people.
I said everything that I wanted. Social media presence and a better relationship.
Oh, I agree with that, 100%. I think we need to
Just like a better social media presence.
Oh, yeah, I agree.
push
Yeah.
communication more.
Yeah.
I agree. That was one of mine. It was, newsletters, whatever we can bombard people with information.
And I'll be honest, for full transparency, I did meet Steve. We met about it this summer, and I will say he said something on it.
Actually have a meeting the Wednesday afternoon and
Yeah.
Thursday with Sophia, with S.A. Nelson, on two topics. One is looking at how do we promote the Happy program differently, better. The second is how do we make sure the "Where did Westlake come from" message is really out there, and so people understand where we're different, why we're different, where we came from. Because again, knowing where your roots are, where you came from, helps you understand why you're in the position you're in, or what you can do, or potentially do that's different than other people, or why you're not doing the same as other cities, why you're able to do things differently. I think that is a critical message that we have to get out. So we'll be working on those two items to bring back to you as a framework, providing you're within my spending limits. We'll run the framework by you, let you know kind of where we're going before we go out the door with it.
Thank you. Like Councilman Paul had pretty much said what's been on my mind. The communication issue is a very big issue, and I think that if the meetings, your staff meetings and stuff, that that your city attorney should be included in staff meetings. I think there's some other instances when she hasn't been. A very open house is what I'd like to see. We're not here to watch the daily process of what goes on. And it's up to both of you to make sure that we do know, and to be able to communicate with each other. And if there is a conflict, it should be out in the open with the council right away, not letting anything fester. Just let's get it out and get it over with. Like you had said, let's try to get this to the chase and over with. And so next week will be an interesting week.
Mr. Barrett, in response to your, the attorney is involved on the Monday staff meetings, other meetings that I have with staff, she's not. It is not the function of the attorney to be, in any city, to be involved in all staff meetings that the manager has or any other meetings. If it revolves around or needing to be something that has to do with legal, then legal is involved. But other than that, legal is not involved in the meetings. This is not a co-managership between legal and city manager. Our form of government is council manager form of government, which is clear as to what the responsibilities of the city manager are and what the responsibilities of the city attorney are.
I understand what you're saying. Okay. If a city attorney's at a meeting, we should have, and it involves anything to do with the city attorney should be in that meeting, period.
If I am representing SID, if I'm having a SID meeting with the SID attorney, that is no business of the city on the city side whatsoever.
It involves the city. If you have your city hat, using it in any way in a similar improvement district meeting, if you're putting your city hat on and it has anything to do with legal, the city attorney should be involved. And if you say no, I'll disagree with you wholeheartedly right here and now.
If there is a city attorney in a meeting that involves a city issue that
and that's a goal. That's a goal. I'm putting it that way. That's what I'd like to see.
I will work on that, but I cannot guarantee it because there are issues that will be out there that one of the things is, as we've talked.
There's a communication thing.
It's also part of the thing that is we've talked before. It's one of the hellacious situations that I am in by wearing both hats.
I know.
Did I agree to this
There's
situation?
a problem with
Yes,
that, right.
Yes, I did.
Understand
Yes,
the
I
problem
did.
with that.
And it's an advantage to the city and SID to have one individual because knowing what's going on both sides, I can short circuit some of the problems I've short circuited a lot of problems that we would have had had I not been wearing both hats.
I can agree with you. It has its advantages and unfortunately it has its disadvantages also.
Can I to that point, and that is a request for Monday, Mr. Castle. I would really like an answer as to why, and I know the history of since I've heard it over and over now, and I know Westlake is new, but 30 years from now, 29, 28, whatever, it's going to be under Westlake, ultimately. I am not, for the life of mine, understanding the friction between the two. And I would really like a very good answer on that next Monday. Just somebody explain to me why something like drainage, or roads, anything like that, is such a big controversy. Why that leads to this in-house fighting. It's beyond me. I cannot understand it. We should be all pulling in the same direction and drifting away on things to me that are minor, that there are rules, regulations, we got to follow them, done. And the rules and regulations are not different for the cities, and they're not different for cities. So why is this? But that's the thing for Monday. So my request to you is for Monday to have a satisfying answer to the council as to why we having this friction, why this is even necessary.
I will have an answer. I'm not sure everybody will like the answer, but I will have an answer.
We can all share our opinions on that.
Do we have any other comments, questions, any more goals to be set?
That's what we accomplished today, basically, is open discussion regarding the reviews and then we set some goals.
Great.
One question that was on Councilwoman Crump's direction for the manager was, requesting that advise the council on how to best navigate the issues that are not hurting the city moving forward based upon the toxic environment. One of the things that I believe would go a long way for everybody is does the council, in other situations where the attorneys are by the hour, they provide on a monthly basis for their charges, what they can do. I don't know what the attorney's working on, when, or what. I don't think any of you do. I think it would be appropriate for the city attorney to provide you on a monthly basis what items was she working on? Was she working on them from the direction of the manager, from the direction of the council, from the public meeting? Not from an individual meeting with any of you as independent, but where is it? I think it would be good to know because there are many, many times that I do not know any way, shape, or form what the attorney is working on until I walk into a meeting and get surprised. That's not a way to work.
Right, I agree.
Is there any opposition to that?
But the report doesn't, there should be I think there should be communication between the two of you about that, but the report should go to the council. She's independent. Your report comes to us. Your report
And that's what I'm saying. That's what I read in Councilwoman Crump's thing was give us some direction as to what I think would be an improvement. I think it would be an improvement for you all to know, is the attorney working on something that you directed? Is the attorney working on something that I asked to be corrected? Or is the attorney doing something on something else that neither one of us know anything about?
So what was the question? What, I'm sorry, I'm looking for it.
It's on Katrina, it's on Kara's, it's number 7 under leadership.
So
It says, given the talks about not being constrained by rigid problems, having given toxic environment, I would like to see the city manager step in and advise the council on best to navigate the issues not hurting the city and moving forward.
Do you know what any of the 5 city lawyers are working on, city attorneys, at any given time?
Yeah, I get a bill every month that I know everything that they've been working on.
So what I gather from that is kind of the same way we get your weekly updates of what you've been working on.
Sure.
We should get some kind of
A monthly thing of where the attorney is.
Update on what you've been on.
Is that an issue then?
We can talk about this. You guys already get this on your monthly meetings, or if you have them bi-monthly, on the attorney update, on the city manager update. If you want something more formal, you can have something more formal. If you want to know, I can tell you right now, one of the things I've spent a great deal of time on, instead of some of the other ordinances and resolutions I think are necessary to come forward, is responding to the volumes and volumes of of emails that you have seen, either from Mr. Carter, from Sid's lawyer, from Mento's lawyer. Those things take research to go through that information, to pull out all the pieces again, and to put it all together. The same thing on the other memo. It took a lot of time to sit down and go through all of that information and put together something that's concise, that makes sense, that's in simple terms for this council to understand without me doing a legal brief and being in court arguing a hearing. So I've tried to avoid that, as well as time meeting with all of the council members to go through this information. In addition, there are those Monday morning calls that lead to the ordinances and resolutions that are on your agenda that are coming forward. I don't need direction from Mr. Castle on what needs to be brought forward all the time. There are a list. I created this list initially when the city was created and have continued to do so. Here's a list of things I think we need to adopt. I've talked to the council about them individually. Some of those have come forward. Some of them have fallen because the land development regulations and the comp plan took priority. The development agreement took priority. Those are the things that we have been continuously working on, the research and time. So I take offense to my time, question, commitment to the city being questioned and challenged. And that's the way that has come across. What am I doing? Well, again, you talk about communication. If we communicate more, there will be answers to these things. There are emails once I get these documents drafted. I provide copies to the city manager for his input and comment. I did that on the golf cart ordinance. On any of these things that come through, he is copied before it hits your agenda. He gets to review and approve it through the mini code system now before it comes to your agenda. So I don't have a problem with the report monthly to the council meeting, as I've been doing verbally, but if you want something formally in writing, we can go through those things. There's other parts that get reviewed that don't always make it here to a meeting, but there are things that are occurring.
Are there other municipalities that have this system in place?
Every other municipality gets the manager, and the council can remove and does review the attorney's bills. A lot of them actually have to, where they have to review the attorney's bill on a monthly basis and approve it. Others, it's a approval by the city manager, but the bill is provided to the council for review. So the council knows what the attorneys are working on and why they're charging.
So moving forward, can you document it? Is that okay? Is that?
No, not the hourly rate. The way this was set
No,
up.
it's not an hourly service. It's just items.
Right, you want to
that are
document
being-
what is happening.
And the reason, my response to this, really didn't want to go here. But in response to this, it's because of issues that have occurred that I am totally unaware of until I get invited to a presentation that's being presented to each one of you with no communication, nothing. Or where different council members are brought in because of something that I may have done or refused to provide information for because I couldn't legally. That a lot of time was spent and packages presented to council about an item that I knew nothing about until I asked one of the councilmen when they were in the office, what's going on? And they shared with me what it was. Or the meeting of September 14th where I was kneecapped. And I explained to the attorney today that I was very upset with that. That was wrong, flat out wrong, from my perspective. There was plenty of time to be called. Yes, did I get the attorney's approval before I sent the memos? No. And the reason I didn't, because I was sick and tired of watching them back and forth between the engineers and everybody else. It needed to be brought to a head. And by sending out the memo, I brought it to a head and we're addressing it. Otherwise, we would be still kicking around and messing around with this darn thing forever. And it wasn't going to get any better. So I did what I did because it needed to be brought to a head so we can address it once and for all. Those are the things that I'm talking about, is not knowing and being blindsided and stuff.
But they
Which is not right.
Or communication.
Yeah, it's exactly what it does for us. It comes directly back to communication.
Well, and now we're getting to the nitty gritty of what, so.
And then we go back to the mayor, we go back, if we have a more open environment.
Well, they can talk all day long.
Yeah, they can.
We just can't talk.
Well, what I was gonna also say is because, and I can understand that. I can understand being blindsided, and not wanting to be blindsided. So, Attorney Booker, can one of your goals, or I would like to suggest one of your goals be to submit this documentation to the CEO of the city? Because on the flow chart, you're the CEO, correct?
Correct.
And then underneath the CEO is the city attorney, is that correct?
No.
Is that how that flow chart was?
No.
Or were they
No,
lateral?
they're on the same level.
We're on the same level.
Yeah.
Both of
She doesn't have to report
both of
to
us are
him, he
reporting
doesn't
back
have
to
to
you.
report to her.
Most cities, attorneys are hired by the council. They take direction from the council. They also take direction from the city manager on a myriad of projects.
Can this be on the agenda for Monday, or is it too late? I would like to look at some other municipalities at this, and
I can put together some report, between now and then under manager's.
I don't know that it needs to be an agenda item, but I know that I would benefit from that report as a council person. And you do report directly to us. I would love that report. If three of us would love that report, I think it becomes clear. So, does anybody have any opposition to that report being presented to the council?
so moving forward,
So,
the attorney would
done.
submit the report monthly. That's a monthly thing? Is that what?
When we have our council meeting, I'll give you an update on the list of things.
So you would say it verbally and you would document?
I would love to see it ahead of the
Okay.
council meeting. So maybe like, if our council meeting is at the beginning of the month, maybe by the end of the prior month, or a week out in front of the council meeting.
A lot happens in a week around here.
Right, but we also have to
Yeah.
give Pam time to create the
Yeah,
report,
that's
so it wouldn't benefit me to have it a day after the council meeting, because then we can't talk about it for the next one. I'd love to have it fresh, the information fresh, right prior to the meeting. Like we discussed
There's also-
workshops before this meeting.
Yeah, and also, I know that even with, we're supposed to be working like this with Sid. I mean, what's going on with Sid and over on the 40th, is it? In the litigation that started with Indian Trails, and those are the kind of things that we should be getting in also. We should be knowing what Sid's happening with Sid.
You're in the discovery mode right now. They're producing documents, both SID and Indian Trails, preparing for the next. There was a deposition scheduled for me as the manager next week, but that's been moved again. So we'll see when that deposition comes around.
But I understand that. I do want to say though, to my colleagues, that's why we, even as a council, need to stay engaged with that TPA. And I did talk to you about getting someone from the dais, and probably either JP or Patrick on that board,
Agreed.
so that they can be informed about that TPA. And so, you do need to engage council, but with Patrick and Paul living in Westlake, one of them needs to be on that TPA board, so they can even tell us what is going on from a councilman's perspective from that, because then they can even advocate for whatever they need to advocate for.
I looked into that once, and I wouldn't even have been eligible. It's broken. The way it's broken down to how you get on that board is pretty interesting.
Purely in community relationship,
Right.
if
It
one
would
of them
help
have the
if
relationship,
we could.
that is an appointed board.
Yeah.
That it's not hard to get on if we have the right people at the table who could get one of them appointed to the board.
Let's find out.
I've
How we
attended
can do it.
TPA
Yeah.
meetings.
Yeah.
I have to.
I know some of the commissioners that
Yeah.
are on them.
Yeah.
I can definitely inquire. I don't think there's any openings, last I checked, perhaps as an alternate.
There's some people rolling off.
Perhaps perhaps as an alternate,
Yeah.
maybe someone rolling off,
Yeah.
that might be something.
Yeah,
There may be positions changing
absolutely.
after
They're
elections.
changing, yes, yeah, yeah. Yeah.
Good idea.
Mayor, if I can respond on the SID issue, I do follow that litigation with Indian Trail. Check all the pleadings, there was a hearing this week, on some discovery items, and it was not adversarial hearing, but they did have a hearing on that earlier this week, and the parties agreed not to go through the Chapter 164 dispute resolution process, but to continue with litigation, and that would have been one of the updates that you got on Monday. So again, that's some of the things that I do, review all the pleadings in that case and their discovery back and forth and where they are.
So did we reach a conclusion with this report, just for clarity, and we can get it before the meetings?
Yeah.
So that information is fresh, if we need to talk about something, that'd be great. Cool.
Before we finish that one other item, I need to report to the board that at the SID meeting today, the SID board did move to proceed with the Section 27 of the interlocal agreement. So you will be getting another letter or whatever from the SID council, whatever the next step is, I don't know for sure.
That's the dispute resolution.
It's the beginning of the dispute resolution process within the ILA. And I just needed to let you know that that did happen today. So we will be getting, either the attorney or myself will get some kind of a wonderful letter from whoever on the other side.
Yeah.
For the next step. And again, on the 9th, we will be addressing some of the things that may or may not correct that.
Yeah. Yeah. Great. Okay, well, doesn't correct it, then we'll move on, and if it does, great.
Fantastic.
Any other words before we adjourn? Or, we don't, we have public comment, I can't adjourn. We have public comment. This section of the agenda allows for comments from the public to speak on items only presented on the agenda. Each speaker will be given a total of 3 minutes to comment. A public comment card should be completed and returned to the city clerk. City clerk, do we have any comments?
I received no previous public comments. I will ask the virtual audience, if you wish to make a comment, please raise your virtual hand or unmute your device and state your name and address. Again, we'll give the virtual audience a moment to raise their virtual hand or unmute their device. Please state your name and address. Mayor, I see no comments.
Okay. Then we'll adjourn the meeting at 8:18. Thank you.
Night all.
Good night.
Oh, everybody have a nice election day.